in terms of a brief roadmap of how we hope to spend time with one another, Danielle is going to share some about how rituals and routines can be so helpful, how really we adult people long for them right now in the topsy-turvy of what is new and different and out of control, and how little people thrive when we have that. And I can tell you, as a mama of a 19 and 22-year-old, we are longing for rituals and routines, and they ground us and anchor us. So she'll talk some about that. And then she and I are going to name some examples of those that we find helpful or that we know to be helpful to others. And then we're hoping that a lot of our time together will be sharing, where you all will be naming what's working, what rituals and routines are supporting where you're at right now and giving some solid ground to your families. And we also want to talk about what's not yet working, ways in which we're in struggle that we would appreciate a chance for dialogue, or for she and I or any of you to really lean in and be with each other as we figure out what's hard about that piece right now. Okay. So hopefully you'll use the chat box as you need it. Hi, Libby, welcome. So glad you're with us. Would you like to say your name and the ages of the kids that you love at your house? You want to unmute Libby Kyles? It's okay if you don't.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
I just heard you. I didn't hear what you said before. I'm sorry.
So you're fine and you're right on time. Other folks had a chance to just name their first name and where they're calling in from and what the ages of the kids, teenagers, or young adults are at their house who they nurture.
So I am Libby, and I have my 10-year-old Leah and 10-year-old Jemiah.
Great. Awesome. Thanks. We're glad you're with us. So Danielle, I'm going to mute myself and give you a moment.
Okay. Thanks, Suzanne. It's really great to see all of you guys. I'm personally missing being with people in real time, so this is a good substitute. So one of the things that I'm just finding myself saying over and over again with the parents and families that I support is just how important it is right now to create some predictability, right? We've got so much unpredictability in our lives, and a bunch of our normal kinds of routines and rituals have been kind of just turned upside down, and we're all kind of just trying to find our footing again in the midst of a lot of change. The same is true for kids, right? A lot of their sort of predictable guideposts of life that kind of create a rhythm or a pattern have been just suddenly taken away. And what we know about anxiety is that predictability is the key to supporting that anxiety coming down. And so I think one of the things that we can do is try to create as much predictability as possible, both for ourselves, and I should say first for the grown-ups, and honestly, like whatever it is that you need to do right now as a grown-up, I'm just encouraging people to do what they need to do, and in any of the advice that I give today, like I want you to take with a huge grain of salt and really take what works and leave the rest, because you know what's going to work best for your family. But what I can say is that when we have sort of routines and guideposts that like mark the time and mark the passing of time, it helps us. It helps our nervous system to sort of regulate and find a pattern or a rhythm. So a few of the things that I've been hearing, and I have the great privilege and gift to hear from a lot of really creative, awesome parents every week, and so I can share, some of the ideas that seem to be working for folks. Things like setting up a weekly or a daily time where maybe you have a relative who can read a story to your child. And it's simple. It doesn't have to be a long, drawn out thing. It can be 5 or 10 minutes, but just knowing on Thursdays at 8 o'clock, this is a thing we do. That can be a way to really like ground and moor your family into a sense of something to look forward to, right? Something that's joyful, that connects us, and something that marks the passing of time. Because right now, especially for people who are not able to work, there's just kind of a free flow of time, which is not good for anxiety. So finding some things that mark the time. So that, I love that example. Something I like to do in the morning for myself is, Heather's saying, does that hold true for to be a teacher as well? Yeah, I think that, any ways that teachers are able to create those guideposts that mark time and that create some joy, that's a fantastic way to use a ritual. So one thing that's working for me and my family is getting up earlier than everyone else. And I make myself a cup of tea that I like, and I walk up to the highest point of the hill, as far away from my house as I can get. And I watch the sun come up, and that it helps me because it's just, wow, that's just something that happens every day. And no matter how bad things get, the sun is still coming up. And that's really hopeful for me. So that's another example. I think the other thing is like marking time with sort of like a family ritual, something that you look forward to, like baking cookies on one day of the week. Sundays is baking cookies day, and so it's something that kids can look forward to, and that also marks like, man, we made it through another week. Here we are on Saturday again, or we have tacos on Tuesday. Here we are on Tuesday again. Just something that's the same. Something that's the same. Creating a rhythm or a sameness is going to really help bring anxiety down. And what I'm seeing in a lot of young people, the young children that I work with, is that there's a lot of behavior, and it looks different for different kids. And it might seem like it's about these little things, like I wanted the blue cup, not the red cup. But really, it's not really about blue or the red cup. It's about just this overwhelming anxiety that's just sort of permeating everything. So for some kids, it's big explosions. Some kids are really clingy or having nightmares. And so trying to just infuse more predictability is going to really help, no matter how that's presenting in a young person. Yeah, so that's my spiel. Mostly I want to hear from you guys.
I will throw out a few things I want to say about rituals and routines before we open it up to everybody. I think how we wake and how we go to bed really matter. And that's as true. Truthfully, everything we're going to say is as true when there's not COVID as when there is. But this only heightens the need for us to really notice how we're waking in the morning. And for many of us who are sleep deprived, either because we are like postpartum or because we have big kids who want to talk about meaningful, deep things at 11:30 at night, or because we're online a lot trying to fill our cup late at night or whatever, it's easy to say, if only I could just get another 25 minutes of sleep. I need that so badly. But I want to encourage you right now, solid ground is missing for many of us. And if we can actually get a shower, get 2 shoes on our feet, and be upright and clear about our center before we're having to parent our children, or as early in the day as we can, the better it will be for them and for us. Mirror neurons are it's the science behind how when we're stressed out, our kids are stressed out. And when we're kind of embodying calm or taking it one moment at a time and feeling solid enough in our own anchor, our kids feel that. So you can assume that if you're at loose ends on the inside or your mind is spinning, that your kids are experiencing that, whether that's 22 of them because you're a teacher, or whether that's one of them because you're single parenting right now, right? So I really want to encourage you, how you wake matters and how they wake matters. So for some of you, your kids are so young that they're going to be the first people awake in the house, and you're dealing with it on the, and you're having to be woken by their needs. And that makes sense to me. But for those of you who have the luxury or the capacity to wake before your kids do, what's happening in the house as they wake up? Could there be some music playing? Gentle music, right? It doesn't have to be the big rock out. That'll come at 4 p.m. when we've got to release all our stuff. But could there be some low light? Could there be something happening in the house that feels like good news to the nervous system, even as they're waking up? A lot of us are finding struggle with our children, young and teenager, within the first half hour that they wake up, right? Maybe differently than used to be. And I just want to name that grief is at play here for all of us. Little people, 3, 4, 5-year-olds are grieving because it's my birthday, and I usually have my family come to be with me on my birthday, and this time it's not any of us. It's just my mom one more time, right? Some of us are grieving because we love our peer group, and we're 12 or we're 17 or we're 20, and we're missing our people. And I just want to name that for kids who are over 4 or 5, there's a lot of grief that's happening right now. And it makes sense that they are feeling frustrated, angry, upset, itchy, different than usual. And what we want to really do is notice that, not heading towards consequences, but actually heading towards being with and acknowledging, like, man, it's a lot. It's a lot for adults. It's a lot for you. Tell me what you're missing, and making space for people, little people and older ones, to talk about what's hard and what they remember about routines from the past. But in terms of routines we can set up, I think it's super important that we be getting outside of our homes in safe ways, out into a yard, or even in some people's case, if you live in an apartment, it might be out into the parking lot. Obviously, if you're going to wear masks in certain situations, and I'm not talking about being in public or being in any way breaking the public health expectations around 6 or 8 feet apart. But I am saying, if we can move our bodies and get outside and breathe, that is good news. And I would encourage you to build a routine around how much you want that for your child and for yourself, and to really hold to that. So I'm watching some young families saying, we're outdoors between 9:30 and 11 a.m. no matter what. If it's 40 degrees and raining, that's still our outside time, and we're going to stick with it. We'll put on more clothes and have an umbrella, but we're going to keep our body moving and be outside. There's all kinds of fun things you guys are doing with dance parties, with painting rooms, or creating spaces in your house that are new and different, or just pulling all the cushions off the couch and having big old stuff time where we're creating a fort and that kind of stuff. But I want to talk briefly about a couple of rituals around gratitude and around releasing things that have been hard, before we break this into a time where all of you will be sharing both your needs and what you're finding is working. When my kids were little, we began something called reflect, release, receive. And it can happen with kids as young as Forrest, or Evelyn's little one who's on the couch with her right now. Reflect is just noticing, how was this day? Let me think back about what happened across my day. So this event happens in the evening. I don't recommend that it happen right next to bedtime. You already have some rituals around how we go to sleep at night, and those are soothing to your child, and we want to keep them steady. So this is something new to offer earlier in the evening than bath and singing and lights out and rest or prayer or whatever else you do. But on the release part, we're going to actually ask our kid, whether they're 20 or whether they're 4, what was a hard part about this day that you would like to blow away? And they get to think back on their day. Like, I didn't like it when you were harsh with me because I got all that water all over the floor, Mom, gosh, right? Or, my sad thing I want to blow away is that I love being in college and being a senior, and it sucks. I don't care about whether I get to go to graduation, but I surely care about not living at my house in Carborough with my friends, right? Regardless developmentally of what it is, you can do this practice for yourself as well. What was one piece of this day that really sucked? And can I let it go? Name it and let it go. And then the receive part is, what's one piece of this day that was good news? When's a moment that I want to magnify or remember or claim or be grateful for? And then how do I want to rub that in and literally soak in what a sweet time was relationally between you and your kid, or a moment where they were truly relaxed and gleeful, or where you put your phone down for like 2 whole hours. Let me talk about that as an awesome routine, to actually set away the phone and be with our people and with ourselves. So anyway, that's reflect, release, receive. And I want you to try it with really little kids, because it's incredible the way they're able to do this. And you could guide your kindergarten students to do that as well, I think. One other quick thing I want to name is gratitudes. This may sound like prayer around the dinner table to you. And if you are not people for whom that is a thing, please just receive it as like a gratitude practice, right? This is non-sectarian completely. But for very young children, there's this lovely little song that we sing at mealtime when we're sitting around the table that goes, hands, hands, hands. I'm trying to sing it secularly. We give thanks for hands. And then you point to your food, 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 food. We give thanks for food. And then you grasp the hand of people beside you and you say, friends, friends, friends. We give thanks for friends. And this is just a sweet little song that anybody can sing. And of course, those of you with big kids are going to be like rolling your eyes going, ain't no way, right? And that's fair. There's other ways that we can do rituals for older folks. But I can tell you that my children grew up with that song. And we have this goofy thing right now with these young bearded men where we put our elbows next to one another. We make a circle of 4 people with elbows. And we're goofing around, regressing back into their early childhood, singing elbows, 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 right? And it's sort of a joke, and it's also just kind of a fun way of connecting. I want to hear more of your voices, but if you guys want some other ideas on gratitudes and rituals related to mealtime or evening time, I can do that later. Okay. So this is really a moment where I'm going to mute myself and invite one of you to unmute and name what routine or ritual is really working for your family right now. And then later on, we'll hear from lots of people about what's working. And then we'll also hear about what's not yet working and questions you may have. So you guys go for it. Anybody willing to share?
I don't mind sharing a personal, not one related to the kids, but I have found that since I'm working at home, that it feels really important that I get up, I shower, I go to work. And
Yes.
so, and I have a very, like at 8 o'clock, I will plug into my computer and I will start checking my email. Like that routine that, is always, I mean, I used to get to work earlier, but that whole idea of, and I kind of have to be camera ready. I'm going to see kids every day on Zoom and families, but, so I need to be, look, like I'm ready to see them, but that has been really helpful in my day-to-day world.
Who else would be willing to share something that's working for you in terms of a routine, especially one related to your children?
So we created a calendar for my kids. We have a lot of ages, and it's really hard for us to keep track of our terrible twos toddler because she's at that stage and she really is a handful in the youngest. So we have a specific set time where mommy has to work. And also I have to get up extra early and start working at 6:30 in the morning until 9. But then I have to set up the specific schedule times out for lunch and for breakfast, for lunch, and for snack time. And so we have this moving calendar in a way where we just tape it off on the wall, like little stickers or whatever with masking tape, blue tape. And then we moved around. So we're flexible in that way, but we also have scheduled time for mommy has to work, and like kid one, Yair, my son, has to have his homework done. Then when my other daughter has to have her homework done. And so we have another sticker that says Delilah, which is the baby, like Delilah, and who's responsible for her at that 1 hour time. So that has been really helpful. The 17-year-old, sometimes he just lays on the floor and plays with her, like whatever, but that's his time to spend with the baby. And so when it's like Rennie and Delilah time, that's their time to do whatever. So that has helped a little bit, trying to manage, you know, who can watch her, but also I don't want my kids to feel so responsible that they're a parent and have to take care of her, but that they're helping, so that we can work and that they can do their homework. And so we're flexible with the calendar, with the timing, but also having that structure has helped us a lot.
Oh, Evelyn, that is fabulous. Thank you. And so totally true. I'm grateful for Delilah and for each one of the people that's holding her.
And also I'm an organizer, so that has come from a lot of background knowledge. And I'm willing to, take a picture of that and share it if it helps anybody.
Oh, please.
And I can, it's actually, oh, my foot fell asleep. I'm sorry. But I'm walking towards where it is. So it's right here.
Check you out. Amazing. Wow.
And we're like, very flexible on what we do. And we move around. TV time, and they're older, so they want to go to bed later, but it also, so it has who's taking care of Delilah, for example, that's Rennie, and that's Delilah, and that's mom, that's responsible. And then we have our meals for the week.
Yep. Love it.
That's so smart. That's great. I love it. And it's true that like everybody in the family, I feel like all of our families are trying to shift in terms of the role that everyone's playing. And I love that you're finding that balance and being able to sort of like name what the roles are at different times. So smart. Really, really creative. I love it.
Thank you all.
Who else would like to share something that's working for you?
So this is Libby. I get up at 5:30 in the morning and shower, get dressed, and start my daily routine because I'm working from home. Excuse me. And I work for the first 2.5 hours before I get the girls up, and they have a set schedule for school. One of the things I found out really quick is that having a set schedule doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work. So I had to rearrange and have my office space in one part of the living room and their school space at the dining room table. And they go to the same space every morning. And so if they're working on math, they're at the dining room table. If they're working on reading, they're in separate rooms, so that they can keep their focus. And then because I was a school teacher, I kind of maintain that schedule where after an hour and a half to 2 hours, they get a 10 to 15-minute break. We have lunch at the exact same time every day. And then we have an activity every evening after dinner. And so they know that something's coming. This weekend, they are watching videos on how to train the toy poodle that we have. And so we're going to incorporate dog training for an hour a day, starting next week because we're on spring break. And just finding little things that are interesting to them and researching about them and then incorporating them in a schedule. So in the past 3 weeks, we've done a lot. They worked on a room for their YouTube channel that was for a certain time. they have a little art project going. So we try to I'm trying to make sure that they stay interested in the things that they're working on. But also I make them go outside. They don't want to, they would rather be on the iPad, but we have to put the iPads away. They have to go outside every day. We have a nice backyard. They play soccer. They run with the dog. And trying to keep bedtime consistent is the other thing that I've been doing. Try not to get too far away from the schedule that they had when they were actually in school.
Fabulous, Libby. Wow. Thank you so much. Those are all really helpful things. And there are a lot of them are ones that in some variation are working even for my young adult kids. You know, they're saying out loud, it helps when we have homework. Like both of them have one more month of curriculum for college, and thank God. And they're saying, I don't know, I'm going to have to find other purpose and meaning and ways to organize my time when I don't have school anymore. So another thing I want to encourage is think about rituals related to your own telephone. Would you be willing to have a place in your house where you and your child together put your phone when you're off phone time and being with them? Even if that means 20-minute stretches, right? It may not be something, if you're Marisol and you're organizing 2,000 people plus across this week, she has to keep going back to her screen and her phone. Libby's in charge of an organization of over 100 employees who are doing frontline work. Some of us don't have choices, but when you have the choice, if you want to let your 5-year-old or your 12-year-old say, look at our schedule together and say, this is 25 or 30 minutes, or maybe 2 hours, where mama's phone's going to be on the top of the fridge. She's not going to touch it. Papa's not doing his phone. I'm not touching it. And we're going to put it away together. You could even sing a little song about that if this is with a young child, or you could have a joke about it if it's, you know, a teen. They're the ones that are actually taking your phone and theirs and putting them into the box, right? And then you guys are being with each other, whatever that looks like. And then at the time that's over, because there are ways to tell time besides our phone, you can look at the stove or a clock, right? We can take those phones back out. But I think it's incredible for folks to have a chance to, I'm hearing so many young parents say, every time I pick up my phone, my child begins to whine. Yes, they know that your divided attention is exactly where we're headed, right? So if we give them times where we're filling their well with intention before we invariably do need to go back to our phone again, that can be really powerful. That's cool. Bianca says she has a box that she and her partner put their phones in. Other things.
One way I love using my phone though, just to give the positives of phones.
Yeah.
And I've learned this from other parents, right? Is actually just setting an alarm on my phone for things that need to happen. So, you know, I have some families that right now it's like they have to set an alarm for when it is lunchtime, because the anxiety gets so high and then you're just not hungry. I personally have an alarm on my phone 10 minutes before I want to shut all of my devices off, because that helps my body to try to sleep. So I have one that goes off 10 minutes before I turn those down, and then I have another alarm that goes off that says, okay, time to turn my lights down. Some days it works really, it's really, really helpful and so necessary, and other days I'm like, oh, right, yeah, I remember when I needed this, but I leave it on there because it's day by day over here, right?
I want to throw out another powerful ritual, and that's lighting little candles. I'm thinking of like tea lights, and they're in a space that's safe. Maybe they're in a little piece of glass or even a Dixie cup or a glass from your kitchen, so that we're not worried about fingers getting burned. But the idea is, can we put our worries onto these lights? Can we literally say, if a child is worried or a bigger kid is worried about something, whether it's COVID related or otherwise, can we light this candle and remember that lots of other folks are holding this, that we're not by ourselves, right? Or you could name the people that you're thinking of as you light a candle. So I think there's a lot we can do with rituals related to light. definitely moving our body. How many of you are having dance parties? If you're not yet, boy, please make yourself a few of your favorite songs on some kind of way of doing that technologically and have at it. And that's a great opportunity for big kids to actually be the DJ and come up with what the dance list is going to be. But if you've got littles like Forrest in your house, or Delilah, man, they know how to dance, and they know whether they want to take their shirt off to do it or whether they want to move the furniture out of the way. And it's really a great time for us to get back to the music we love from our own adolescence. So, you know, they're going to dance to whatever you're dancing to, but claim what you love in terms of your now music or your then music, and move our bodies and wiggle and dance. That's super fun. I'm aware that we have 8 minutes left. Check it out, Libby Kyles. We dance and make TikTok videos. All right. So I'm wondering if you all have questions, concerns, things that are not yet working that you would like to bring to the group or to Danielle and me.
I don't know if this is about, oh, go ahead, Evelyn.
No, go ahead. You're fine.
I don't know if this is around ritual or just grief. And so if it's not the appropriate time, you can say that. But getting my senior, and she's a really high achieving kiddo, but she just had knee surgery 3 weeks ago. And so her dance season was already a little bit in limbo, but they're having all of these great opportunities. And she's not like, and she's still in PT and she's working towards it, but feeling like there's something to work for isn't really there. And seniors have pass-fail grades now as of March 13th, and she still has an AB Tech class and an AP class, but like doing work in other classes, why would you do that? So like finding motivation for some of those things that feel like there's no goal in mind anymore is feel sad. And I mean, a dance is her life since she was like 3 years old, and so that's been something that we're trying to manage.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Mm. I think one of the things I really want to encourage is to name it, call it a grief, talk about it that way, and, and allow her to be able to talk out loud about what it feels like to lose her knee for a while, some of these dance competitions, some of these rituals that were coming her way as a senior that will go poof and that she'll literally never have in the same way. Sometimes we try to fill that space and think about what's positive or silver lining or whatever. And I want to encourage you, let her feel the full feeling of sadness. Be with her in it. Tell her, it's okay with me for you to tell me how bad it really is. This is a great time to welcome cussing and welcome tears and to cry with her, because I guarantee you've cried, right? Even if you've hidden it and done it on your own somewhere else. So this is an awesome time to cry with our children and say, I am so sad and mad that got taken from you by this virus. And just let her notice that your big feelings are welcome and safe, and that they don't overwhelm you to a point where you feel like you have to hide them. Yeah. Heather Tate says we had one big cry together, but I know it's ongoing. But I also think in terms of purpose, Heather, that's something we're sorting out at our house as well. And, you know, we have to do some of the grieving and move on through some of the assignments that are now purposeless, but seem to be the order of the day between now and when school would be out or when, you know, the busy work is done. But I also think we can weave in meaning and purpose in that even now. And so asking her and yourself to begin wondering, who can I serve? How can I be with others? What do I do well besides dancing that this world needs? And how can I offer it in virtual ways right now? And she may already know some of those things and live into them a lot. And then you're just finding a way to reconnect with those. But for others of us, it'll be brand new things we've never offered before. But what our contribution is,
Wonderful. Yeah, Suzanne, I'm seeing from Libby here a question that I'm sure a lot of people are having. That, you know, her child's having some anxiety with a lot of questions every day, that or letting her know she's really scared, and struggles with how to help kids who are clearly like really anxious and scared. One idea that I suggest often to folks that works really well for some kids is setting aside a time and or place where the worries go. So setting aside a worry time each day that, it might be 10 or 20 minutes that is just all we're going to do during this time is worry. And I want you to share with mom all your worries. And what that does, a lot of worrying is related. That just we go over and over and over again with the worries. It's almost like our brain is trying to remember to worry about something. And so if we have a designated time to do that, it allows us to let our brain know, okay, we can save this for worry time. The other thing that works really well for some kids is having like a physical space, so like a worry box. You can just get a shoebox, with a lid, and you can make a little hole in it, and they can write on notes what their worries are and slide those in there to save for the worry time. Again, not doing this right before bed, making sure you have a good wide space before nighttime, because when the sun goes down, we sort of get into this mode where more of our like subconscious fears and stuff become really vulnerable during that time. So trying to do it maybe before dinner, I suggest, and really putting a container around the time. So setting a timer even for how long the worry time is going to go on for, so that it doesn't just spiral and your child's spiraling all night long. But having a container of time, and then planning an activity after that that's fun and soothing. So something like it's going to be soothing to the senses. So taking a bath, if your child likes back rubs, maybe doing a back rub. For an older child, a game that really helps is that can incorporate touch is drawing letters on their back. So maybe you try to write a message to them, and they're guessing those letters on their back. That's going to give their brain and their body a distraction from the worry to get back into their body and start to calm down before bed. Another good sensory tool is if you have, which Bianca and I did on the call earlier in the week, finding objects of different textures around your house. So for example, like a makeup brush maybe, and a cotton ball or a scrap of fabric, showing your child how those feel on their hand, and then having them close their eyes and guess. Doing a simple activity like that after the worry time will help them reground and get back in their senses, and try to kind of leave the worries behind. One idea, we'll see. It's all an experiment. There's nothing that's it's a magic pill for all this. We're all anxious, so.
I really encourage physical touch, and sometimes we need containers for knowing that that's comfortable and safe. So some of us are just snuggly, touchy people, and some of us really aren't. But if you keep a small bottle of massage oil, or even just lotion that you already have at your house, don't go out and buy anything new, and one old towel that you're willing to have get a little greasy, in your living room, in the place where you're watching these videos, right? Or in your regular old space, and just have it out sitting around over in a corner or under the coffee table. And the idea is on a regular basis, or maybe a certain time of evening, who's ready for a foot rub, right? Who's willing to take their socks off? Some people don't like their feet touched. Okay, who's ready for a hand rub? Could I give my mom a hand rub and then she give me one? And we keep that out in our house even when it's not COVID time, to stay in touch, literally touching bodies when we're able. But that is also something that we've built over years, and it may feel funky and weird to folks who haven't done it, I'm not sure. But anyways, that maybe people don't want a back rub, but they'd be open to a back scratch through their shirt while they're playing cornhole, right? Cornhole has factored very highly into the rituals for our after dinner time with big kids. So coming up with ways that we spend time together in the evenings. Y'all, we're almost out of time. Are there other specific questions?
Yeah, there's a question in the chat box. Physical touch piece is challenging right now if you're an essential worker and feel
Yep.
you may get your kids sick. Absolutely.
Makes sense.
Absolutely. It's scary right now. I think, following the recommendations as closely as we can and really scrubbing down is going to help a lot. I think if there's ways to do, touch, like we were talking about, like with the different objects, where maybe it feels a little bit safer, unless you're completely separate from your child. I mean, chances are you're having some interaction that's closer than 6 feet, but if it feels safer to use like different objects to do the touch, even that's going to be helpful for kids because touch is so regulating for their emotional little cells and nervous system. The other thing is if you have others in your home that can do the touch,
Yeah.
teaching them some of the strategies, or even siblings, you can teach them how to do that game, like with the letters on their back, things like that, to help them get that touch. That's a really good point.
It's so real, Sarah. I hear you. I want to name another idea for touch that's through clothing. And I recognize that if you're an essential worker or if you're feeling worried about having been exposed, this isn't going to work. But for many of us who are self-quarantined or just doing the stay-at-home thing, we are still touching one another through clothing. Imagine that this is for like teenagers and for other kids who might be open to some touch, but especially if it got more playful and big kid and not quite so little kid focused. Imagine that your back is the United States. This is also a geography game for any of you who are teachers, and ask for a back scratch on a certain state. So kids can, a 15-year-old boy can say, Mom, you wouldn't mind getting me at Texas, would you? And we scratch Texas for a while. And then he's like, I don't remember everything up in New England, but something up there kind of on the right-hand side. And then we go over to California and we scratch or rub California. And then we head down into Florida or whatever. It's just a way that we can be normalizing touch and rubbing on or scratching one another's back for kids who may be old enough that they're too cool, they're not really in or whatever. So those are just some ideas as well. I know that we need to say goodbye to one another for now. I'm glad that somebody pointed out that Bianca and I will have a time this coming Monday evening from 8:30 to 9:30. That's a chance less about strategies and more about just being with and hearing from one another. And then we'll be doing this again next Saturday morning as well. Danielle and I would welcome you back. Happy for you to invite others to come. I'm so grateful to see you. What else do we want to say, Danielle, before we go? Can we ritualize our leave taking with one another?
I just really want to encourage everybody to notice what's going really well for you and celebrate the fact that number one, anybody who's able to be on this call at all, like, wow, y'all are doing well emotionally, and your kids are feeling that. I think a lot of parents I'm talking to right now are feeling really overwhelmed and can get into a place where kind of down on yourself as a parent. And I just want to encourage you all and celebrate all of you guys that are out there doing some of the hardest work imaginable with like crazy constraints on parenting right now. So just trying to be gentle with yourselves and just really grateful for everybody.
And I would just encourage you as we end to notice that we can look into the eyes of other folks who are in this with us, right? We're doing it right now. We may be people who don't know one another, or some of us know each other really well, but we are drawing strength from one another and we're not alone. So, deeply grateful. Hope to see you again next Saturday morning. Be well.
Thank you, everyone.
Be well.
Close the meeting. I can't leave. Right here.
Push that red one in the right hand lower corner.